I recently had a coaching client in Ireland join up and go from €2,000 monthly recurring revenue to €8,500 monthly recurring revenue and her first 10K month in only 20 weeks. Now, she's a performance consultant, and I want to share with you how she did that, because she came to me in May of 2025, so a few months ago at the time of recording of this video. She'd had a good January, she'd made some sales, and she was sitting around the 4K per month mark in January, so she was already established. However, things just slowly started to trickle downhill from there. And after the January rush, she slowly but surely watched the business deteriorate back down to 2K. And by May, about 4.5 months later, 5 months later, she'd gone right back down to 2K. And the business was just sliding backwards, and she didn't know what to do. She was posting content every day. She was showing up on social media. She was having conversations with people. She had more than one Instagram page. She was creating tons of content. She was skilled in her delivery. She was an elite level athlete herself. So she had like all of the stuff that she thought she needed to grow the business. And she was doing all of the things that she thought she had to do. Yet things were just not working out. So I'm going to tell you the exact 5 things that we did the minute she came in to effectively 5x her business in only 5 months. I would get a pen and paper and take some notes on this, because you will want to implement some of this stuff if you're feeling a little bit stuck, if the revenue is sliding backwards, or maybe just stuck in the same place for the last month or two. There's going to be a ton you can take from this video, so make sure and stick around to the end and take some notes. Now, the very first problem that we had to solve was the audience she wanted to attract and the audience that she wanted to deal with. So believe it or not, we actually had to say no. We actually had to get her to stop doing things. So a lot of the time people think, if I need to make more money in my business, I need to do more things, and I'm missing things, and there's something that I should be doing that I'm not. When the reality is, often you're doing too many things, and you're doing lots of things in lots of different directions, but you're not actually stacking things in one direction. And so a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of frustration when you just end up not going in the direction that you expect. And this is where my client was. So we had to sit down and get really, really clear on, like, look, you have these 2 Instagram pages. You've got one for your sport. You've got one for mental performance. And right now, it's not working to do both. So we actually have to stop creating content for 2 pages. We have to stop trying to appeal to everyone. And we need to pick an audience here, because it's really easy for us to actually talk to a specific audience, a specific type of person. It's very easy for us to market to that person when we know who they are. But if we think that we can talk to everyone, then no one listens, and it just becomes noise in the marketplace. So believe it or not, the very first thing, it took us 2 weeks in the start to actually sit down and make that decision. And she worried and she stressed, and she was like, what is the right decision? How am I going to make the right decision? And good framework for decision making is just, you can't know what the right decision is because you don't have full information. You have incomplete information, and you only get the information looking back with hindsight. You can't actually have all of the information to make what is the right decision, but you can make a decision, and then the actions after that decision are going to be the things that define whether or not it is a good decision. So like I said to her, we got to just make a decision. We got to get clear. Who is the audience that we want to serve? Who do we want to speak to in our content? Who are we going to basically laser focus on and cut out everyone else? And we found a niche and a demographic that we could connect with that had a lot of opportunity, that she was already an expert and an authority in. And that was the first step that we did. And the results very, very quickly started to pour in. Now, the second thing we did was we actually looked at her delivery. So prior to working together, she had a lot of different kind of price points and services that she was delivering. But in all of them, there was one common trend or theme that was really holding her back. And this was how she was valuing her time. So she was way undercharging for her time, firstly, and she was giving way too much time to everyone, way too much access. Everything was super individualized, even for people who weren't paying that much money. And so what she had was, I think she had 21 clients starting out, but they all had a huge amount of access. And some of them were paying a very small amount and some of them were paying more. But the differences in how she coached them didn't actually equate to the difference in the prices that she was charging for these different tiers. So the second thing that we had to do was just get really, really clear on like, how are we going to price our delivery? How are we going to deliver? And we installed what's called an access level offer. And this is effectively where you have different levels of access to you, the coach. And obviously, as the access to you goes up in terms of they get more access to you, the price increases with it. So that might mean that someone who gets weekly calls gets, all of the support, all of the documents, all of the information, all of the coaching tools, all of the templates, whatever it is that you deliver. They pay more than someone who gets all of the tools and the templates and all of the stuff, but only get one call per month. And they pay more than the people who get all of the stuff, but it's DIY and they don't get any calls. So effectively, we installed this offer. And this meant that she immediately started making sales to her current client base. So before we'd even done any marketing or sales or anything like that outside of her community, she immediately upsold 2 people to this higher level service. And they were happy to pay double what they were currently paying. And so we basically just turned current clients into more profit. And also, like I mentioned in a previous video around pricing, into better clients, more committed clients, people who wanted to be in her world and wanted to really work closely with her as well. Once we were clear on the delivery and what the different tiers looked like, then we actually sat down and we built out a 4-figure offer. And this was effectively, okay, how are we going to position what we do in different ways so that we can sell this offer and this solution to the right people at the right price point, and we can do it easily without objections and without having this cat and mouse game of chasing people around the DMs. How can we create a very, very powerful offer that solves a problem for this niche and this demographic that also gets my client very well paid in the process? And again, that was really just a decision. A lot of this was just decision making, right? We didn't have to do a ton of things different. We had to decide around the niche, the audience, the way that we were going to deliver and the tiers, and then how we were going to actually show the value of the delivery and basically promote our offer to the people that we wanted to sell it to. Now, once we had those 3 foundational pieces in place, this was all within the first couple of weeks. We ran an instant offer launch and we'd already started making sales inside her community. But the first launch killed it. We signed 7 or 8 people on the first launch. And so we really, honestly, just went back and we rinsed and repeated the launch formula. And by the end of her first 8 weeks, she'd gone from 2K a month to 4K a month monthly recurring revenue. And that was actually her goal for the end of 2025. So when she came, she was like, I'd love to just be back at 4K consistently at the end of 2025. And 8 weeks later, she was there at 4K per month and she was absolutely flying. We sat down, we had a conversation, and she decided to move from the mastermind tier of my program up to one-to-one for 12 weeks. Over the next 12 weeks, we basically went through the offer flow framework. And the offer flow framework is essentially making offers to different portions of your audience at different points in time so that we can move people through the buyer stages. And the buyer stages start from cold strangers and end up in long-term raving fan clients. And everything in between are the buyer stages. So, people go from cold strangers who don't know you to slightly less cold, engaged strangers who are starting to get to know you, to interested, warm leads, to very interested, hot leads, to customers who buy something small from you, to clients who come on board into your program, to long-term raving fan clients who stay with you for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So everything in between requires an offer to move somebody from one stage to the next. So for example, if someone is very cold and they've just come into my world and they don't know me, maybe that's you. The most logical and sensible offer that I can make to you is to click the link in the bio of this video because it's free. You don't get charged anything. There is no risk to you. And in exchange, you will get access to the 10K per month asset-driven coaching business model that we're using. So you can click the link, you can get that, and you will go and watch the video. And by the end of the video, you will understand even deeper how I can help you. And you will be more inclined to reach out if you want some help. Now, if I just said to you in this video, hey, come and join my program, here's the price, here's the length of time, click the link below and join, nobody would join, right? Especially if you're someone who is new here. You're very unlikely to go and just immediately click a link and head to a Stripe checkout and pay me and join my program. It just doesn't work like that. And that's because you have to move through this journey. So the offer flow framework was basically taking her from where she was, where, okay, we know we've got a solid main offer, core offer. We've run that a couple of times. We've filled the program a couple of times. We've increased the pricing. We've positioned you in front of your audience and the right people. We've doubled your revenue in 8 weeks and your profit in 8 weeks because we didn't spend any money on ads. This was all organic. And now we want to start building a system and a flow of offers that moves people through that entire journey from stranger to long-term client, bit by bit by bit. And this also applies to clients within her program. So like I said, she was already upselling clients within the program. And these are the people who would be going from just being a client to becoming the long-term committed raving fan clients that she absolutely wanted. So that's what the offer flow framework is designed to do. And we implemented that. And over the 12 weeks of one-to-one, by the end of the 12 weeks, so bear in mind, she started with 8 weeks in the mastermind, then 12 weeks of one-to-one. She'd gone in that time frame up to 8.4K monthly recurring revenue and her first ever 10,000 euro a month. And this all happened super, super quickly, but it only happened because we sat down and we locked in the foundations. We got really, really clear on who we're building this for, what we're building, how we're delivering, what are the results we're getting for people, how is the value delivered, how is the value priced, and how are we actually going to market and sell this? And then once that was all crystallized and clear, it was literally just a matter of running the offer flow framework on a consistent basis. And that is exactly the 5 steps that I would take if I was you and I was somewhere below 2K right now and I wanted to get to a 6-figure business in as little time as possible. I would run through those 5 steps. I would get very clear on the audience that you want to serve. I would get very clear on your delivery and your access and how you're going to actually coach in a way that is scalable for you and valuable for clients. I would get clear on your pricing. I would build a 4-figure offer that you can confidently sell. I would learn how to launch and sell your main offer. And then once that is all done, I would start implementing an offer flow framework where you're making offers to people every single week and you're guiding people from one stage of that journey to the next stage all the way through, so you have a consistent flow of leads, customers, clients, and long-term clients who love what you do.